faulting people who have bought things from this person when they had no idea. They're victims as well to the scam, okay? I'm just saying that because sometimes I hear a narrative online and people blaming the person who bought it. I don't want us to be doing that, guys. They're both deactivated. Akaha has been deactivated, the account doesn't exist, and if you go look for Inara's account, it doesn't exist as well. But all of this brings up a whole conversation of how these scammers get on VGen in the first place, and a bunch of people have been tweeting about it with a theory. So Kuma or Kumalicious on Twitter writes, "Don't host code giveaways for VGen codes. Y'all are supposed to be giving away codes to artists you trust, not Becky123 the scam bot that just happened to win your raffle. Come on now. Y'all hand them out like candy, then wonder why there's scammers on VGen. Like, gee, I wonder why." And another person, Unte, writes, "I do a whole background check before giving away those, and I follow artists to monitor. I know some small artists are ones struggling with getting a code if they don't have a friend possibly already in. So I'm very cautious, but I do give them away so more peeps have the chance." And Kuma responds, "I think it's good that way. At the least, you're checking to make sure it's an actual artist." And Ray Kuno writes, "Do some people not realize they might also get their Artist Plus revoked if the person they gave the code to turned out to be a scammer?" And here it reads, "Be careful who you invite. Inviting bad actors may result in consequences for your own account." And Kuma responds, which is good in my opinion, because it's important to uphold the integrity of the site that so many people have worked hard to create and maintain. It sucks seeing some people ruin it and invite whomever. And Cookie Hannah writes, "For real this. Everybody blaming VGen for being the new Fiverr or whatever. I don't know. Maybe if y'all was stop giving codes to random people, we wouldn't be getting so many scammers on there. Also, they're a small team, like, give them some time to deal with this stuff." And Citrus Friend responds, "I agree. It's not like VGen doesn't have any rules with giveaway codes. They clearly state that, quote, random giveaways without screening recipients, end quote, is something we shouldn't do, and there are even more rules as to who we aren't allowed to invite." And they attach the screenshot of the VGen Artist Plus code policy, where it lists that be careful who you invite, only share codes with trusted individuals you know, not random. Inviting bad actors obviously may give consequences. It's prohibited to sell codes, trade codes, use codes as payment, random giveaways without screening recipients, and contests must not focus on fan art themes. And you are allowed to give codes to trusted friends, review hashtag VGen code tweets to find trustworthy artists, and hold contests and applications to give codes to screened individual. And again, another screenshot of who is allowed. That is a big probably reason why there's a bunch of scammers on VGen, because VGen is invite only, and the purpose of it being invite only is to make it exclusive, which is a little frustrating for new artists trying to get on. But the point is to make sure that everybody on VGen is a verified and vetted artist so that you don't get scammed. That's the whole point. That's why it's invite only. And giving codes away willy-nilly without double checking whether they're a human being or not, or whether they are a legitimate artist or a thief, is how these people sneak on. Because they got a code somehow, right, to get onto the platform. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But with that being said, that concludes the situation. Let me know your thoughts down below. Again, please be respectful. Don't send hate to any parties involved. And please show love to protagonists for unfortunately having their design stolen and traced, which is so violating. And to Oxy and anybody else who has accidentally purchased artwork from a scammer without knowing, let's please execute some grace here when we are considering this situation, okay? And again, don't send hate to the VTuber as well. From what it seems like what people have been saying, the VTuber has taken everything down about the model and the artwork, and they seem to have no intention of using the design anymore because it looks like they didn't know it was traced. So again, let's conclude all of that. We know Inara stole at least the designs because they were posting about it with other stolen artworks as well. And they were trying to claim it was theirs, but in the DMs they basically admitted it. And Akaha has now deleted their account as well. It seems like they were the main one who had kind of like executed all of this, even claiming the design was theirs. So they're gone now, but again, don't send hate to any parties involved. Let's try to be respectful at the end of the day. So if you like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on Etsy because I do sell digital art there, and I also have a coffee shop where I sell digital goods and stuff. I will also be going to Japan and Korea for 3 weeks, so I'll be leaving March 15th and I'll be back April 3rd. So if I'm gone, I'll have regularly scheduled videos. When I film videos in Japan and Korea, my setup will look different because I am in Japan and Korea. So just keep that in mind. But thank you guys for checking out my content as usual. I appreciate y'all so much. Don't forget to check me out on Twitch. I do stream there 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST.
You're watching Bose Live, and this is the best of a body cam.
This is kid finds mom's drugs, calls cops, and has her arrested. A couple months ago, but over 4 million views.
We were called to come check on your son. Check him and talk to you.
A 9-year-old boy was filled with tears as he turned in his own mother, handing over to police a 100-gram bag of meth found in
How much is that?
Jesus?
How much is that? How much is that? Shit. That's how I know it's a lot of
That's so fucked.
shit.
On accident? Where was that? What's that?
Girl, under the nightstand.
So weird. The incident happened in July.
The tooth fairy must have dropped it.
Uh,
Video captures police responding to the home where an officer is met by the young child who hands over a large Ziploc bag.
We were called to come check on your son.
bro.
Check him in and talk to you?
See, if my kid did that about weed, she'd be so rude.
Yeah.
For meth, do it.
Yeah.
Fucking do
The
it.
child's mother was
Yo, the officer's demeanor, he said, yeah, well, he just handed it to me. Like, his tone is already like, we are not doing this, lady.
identified as Kendra Long. According to police, Long's son discovered the drugs, locked himself in a bathroom, then called his father with an iPad.
I'm just gonna say this.
Yo.
This is my assumption. I feel like the kid did not find it on accident. I mean, he was like digging around his mom's nightstand, and the minute he found it, he knew it was bad and knew to call the police. Probably because he's been seeing mom's behavior for a while, and he just wants mom to stop, and he's trying to help. This is a scared child whose mom has been on meth, and he's a toddler and doesn't understand what's going on. What
Toddler.
Oh,
heroic act.
Who else murdered you?
Me and him. That's it.
Why are you sweating?
I'm not sweating.
Oh, call dad, not the police. My bad, my bad.
No, I'm freaking out right
So there was other people here earlier. They left.
now. I think they're really like for Christmas.
So this is your house. So you,
I don't know why you're here.
well, you're,
Because you
you're,
have
you have an
0.2
ex-boyfriend
pounds
or
of
something?
meth.
Jesus.
Baby daddy?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. He called because he wanted to check on your son. He was concerned that there was some stuff going on, that he was FaceTiming your ex. What's his name?
My ex-husband, Tony.
Tony. He was FaceTiming Tony. He was concerned about his welfare. Well, I guess when he was on FaceTime with Tony, he was showing Tony this stuff that he found in the house.
I don't even know what that is.
Well, I don't either.
Well, I don't even know what happening. I know that my kid went in the bathroom for an hour, and I've been like, what's wrong? We're having a
Wait, what a strong emotion. Kind of has her shoulders back, hands here, terrified. Well, wait, you tell me. What's yours? What do you think? Don't look at my tits.
What?
Oh, I like that one. Someone said she's protecting herself. People that do like the body language expert stuff, I think it's kind of horseshit sometimes. But when you have such strong facial expressions or such strong body posture, like sometimes it's indicative of something.
So everything in the house is yours?
my house.
Okay. And this is in your house?
Well, Kristen was here earlier.
Who's Kristen?
My girlfriend.
Oh, she's ready to throw Kristen under the bus.
Uh-huh.
Damn.
When confronted about the drugs found in the Ziploc, Long responded she doesn't do drugs.
We don't have to do drugs to have drugs in the house.
But do you smoke drugs? That's what we want to know.
I don't, I mean,
Raph.
like I said, why we're here, Tony was clean again.
Oh, okay. All right. I was about to say, Chloe, girl, but I see we got a couple gangsters in the chat. They said, nah, she's selling. I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought that all that meth is for her. I thought she just was going wholesale or something. I don't know. She's a meth dealer and doing a little stash.
He was concerned, he was scared. He said, I found this in the house, I think it's drugs. So Tony calls us to come and check on Austin, your kid.
I don't even know what it is or where he found it.
I don't either.
I don't get it, okay?
I get it. And like I said, that's why we're here.
The officer then takes down her information. Meanwhile, another officer on scene goes to speak with Long's son as his body cam captures the child bursting into tears as he tells the officer he found the drugs.
And what did you find inside the house that made you scared? Okay. Do you know what drugs look like?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So where were the drugs at?
Underneath the nightstand.
Underneath the
Oh,
nightstand?
he's so scared.
Okay. Gotcha. Do you ever seen anything like that here before? No? Okay. So where are those at right now? There's nobody inside's in trouble for anything. I just need to try to figure out what's going on.
He probably feels so bad for having to turn his mom in.
Okay. And have you ever seen anything like that in the house before? No? Okay, but you know what drugs do look like?
This is a smart kid, for real. Because how
She's not a toddler.
Thank
I was
you.
8 or 9 years old, and I found that I would have.
For a second, I was thinking like a 4-year-old.
What is
Nah.
this? I don't know. I'm trying
Is an
to
8-year-old a
The
toddler?
Long's son then tells the officer he
Yeah.
believes the drugs were found inside the house on purpose by one of his mom's friends.
Okay, so is there, like,
How old did he say?
come and go
8?
in and out of the
Yeah,
house?
that's not a toddler.
Only people
Still a kid though.
that came to the house are some of his friends, and that's really it.
Okay. Do you think somebody might have dropped something off, or it was somebody else's that they accidentally left here?
I think they dropped something off on accident.
You think they dropped something off an accident?
No, not on accident, on purpose.
Okay.
Khalil said, this kid sounds closer to 6 to me, Buzz.
Yo.
Kids, that's why I asked y'all. But then, he's even smarter because, I would have been in there 6 years old. Y'all ever seen the little, that picture of that baby just covered in powder? It's just like sitting there. That would have been me. I would have dumped it all on top of Mom, look, I made it snow. That's 100% would have been me.
Bose.
Who do you think left the stuff here?
Her friend, which his nickname is Poncho, but his
Whoa! God damn.
Pretty nice.
Hey, you can't just have the kid say the dealer's first name on a camera that is available to the public.
Idea what he's at. Hey, this some shit we wouldn't even do at 20, 30, 40. We'd be like, shit, I got my life together. I got to mind my business. Alfonso, I'll see you next week.
Oh.
My God. This kid is the real gangster.
look at him and you know it, and he's always back to be around him.
Has he ever
Ew.
like that? You just ask kind of weird. And is he just a friend to your mom, or are they? Okay.
That's all I know.
Oh
She just kinda
my
shows up every
God.
once in a while.
Yeah, I've only seen him about once or twice.
And you think he dropped the stuff off?
Yes.
The officer who was speaking to Kendra Long comes outside.
I do think the dad knew quite a bit of details, and part of it feels a little stressful because it's like
This is wild.
The dad dumped all of this on the kid, but you know what? I'm not taking it away from my little hero. He did it. He did what he needed to do,
Rolled a question.
and he probably did it because he loves his mom.
Kendra Long comes
Oh.
outside. When he asks the then 9-year-old a question, the child breaks into tears again, admitting he found the drugs on accident.
So you got scared tonight. You called your dad. And you found this stuff,
I'm
right?
like, did his dad tell him to go find it?
I don't know, nothing.
On accident?
Yeah.
Where was it at?
It
What's that?
was an accident.
Under her nightstand, so that would be in the bedroom that she sleeps in?
Yeah.
And how did you recognize that? What did you think when you saw it?
I just saw a couple bags. I was curious.
Yeah. And like TV and stuff? Like you thought like maybe it was drugs from like TV and stuff?
Venus Flytrap said, "Damn, the DARE program worked with this kid." When I was coming out of school, they were just getting rid of the DARE program. All we had was Requiem for a Dream. That shit worked though.
As one of the officers delves more into the child's home life, the 9-year-old told the officer he had trouble with his mom in the past.
Your dad said he's gonna put you up for adultery. Your mom? Have you told your dad that?
Yes.
What did your dad say when you told him?
He was kind of getting mad and all she said, dude.
He knew. Yeah, Dad knew.
Have you told your dad about the other stuff that she's done? The physical abuse back in the day?
Yeah.
And what was his reaction when he
She's
said?
gotta go.
Mad.
One of the officer calls the report into his
Got it,
supervisor,
they're divorced,
noting on
okay.
the phone just how large the bag of meth was.
The kid, he's been talking about that.
Okay, so they're divorced. So to clarify, that means that the dad didn't push his kid to call the police because, his wife was doing drugs. It means from a distance, the kid found the drugs and the dad just did the best he could from the distance and told him what to do. But it's totally fair. He might have left because of all this shit too.
I've been kind of hearing about some possible physical abuse in the past by mom.
I want to say, I believe all of this so far. I'm taking the video at face value. However, I do just have to say, Queen said, sounds like a custody battle to me.
Ooh.
That's a crazy thought. But just based on the reaction when they brought the drugs out, I think she knew what it was. But we'll just take the video at face value because there's 1,000 what ifs that we could introduce. But I just wanted to call that one out because custody battles are pretty crazy.
And he just, basically, he wants to be with dad more. Being out of the situations can sometimes be coached,
Oh, wow. Okay, chat. We're literally we're on the same page.
Back inside the house, Kendra Long insinuates her son may have been coached to say negative things about her from her ex-husband.
I don't even know what your son has said. I've been in here with you and Officer Engel and Officer Anderson the whole time. So it's not like I'm sitting here listening, trying to figure that out. I know you try and keep listening, which is understandable. But it's interesting.
Because he was coached so severely that it was all in the
That was
Oh my
gonna be my next line
god.
of questioning. Do you think he's ever been coached?
Oh my god. What do you guys think?
Because he
What do you guys think? I have no idea.
Yeah, it's also
I have
2:30
no
for me.
idea. I have no idea. Also, listen, if you put a child in front of me on body cam that's crying, I'm gonna believe the kid. But I'm also hearing the nuances of this. I am listening.
just started volunteering all kinds
I am listening.
asking him about. And I
He started
asked him,
volunteering
has your dad
information.
ever told you to say things about your mom that weren't true? And he straight said no, absolutely not. Very direct, almost like he was anticipating that was going to be my next question.
I don't know what this is on. Like, next,
Meth hairline? What? You said she has a meth hairline.
Girl.
Be her hairline.
whatever this thing is, I'm completely, I don't even know what this is or what it's about, but, I'm having a heart attack now thinking about working. If that's what it's stirring up again.
Do you think your ex-husband would attempt to set you up
Oh,
to
I
win
mean,
full custody of Austin?
oh, but that's what the objective was then. Now, I didn't think we had anything going on, but he has been, short on the last 2 months payment. I don't know what his situation is, but that's something he didn't mention, I guess. So I don't know.
Huh.
If that's what's happening, then that's what's happening. I mean, do I need to get like my lawyer or whatever? I mean, what do I need to do with that?
I mean,
What do you guys think of her response so far? Does she seem like somebody that got caught and is trying to just handle it? Or does she seem like somebody that isn't surprised that her husband could do something like this? Gray, I'm with you. Can't fully tell. I'm comfortable being a 3. I'm comfortable being a 3. But you can be a 1 or you can be a 2. Whatever you want to be. You could be a 4.
has anything happened in his dad's life that would
Yes,
change and make him want to have
financially.
Austin back? So
You don't want to pay child support anymore?
financially, so he doesn't have to make payments to you for
Oh.
child support. He would try to get Austin back.
I forwarded to my child support.
Mhm.
That's all I know.
Yo, I'm with Chunky. Chunky Ghost said, I only trust that kid, and I'm a 3 right now. I'm with you, because even if he was coached by the dad, the officers, I think, can break through that because it is so common if they need to. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I right now, I don't really trust either parent. You know, custody battle, they'll bring out a side of you that you didn't even know you had in you.
And the child's father arrives to the home.
Then eventually we got here, and they opened the door. They were standing like he was in front, she was in back, and they literally just hands me. I'm just amazed she didn't try to take it from him or do anything. I was startled that she just allowed. I mean, not that I think it's great because this is great. I mean, yeah, if they were standing right next to each other, he just handed it to me, which God forbid if it was fentanyl or something crazy. Right.
After speaking with
I'm gonna play this again. The
Mhm.
only thing I'm noticing here is it feels like he's responded really quickly, and he's like, "Ooh, I'm on the same side."
Long's ex-husband and the child's father arrives
I'm
to
just
the
gonna play it
home.
back for you.
Then eventually we got here, and they opened the door. They were standing like he was in front, she was in back, and he literally just hands me. I'm just amazed she didn't try to take it from him or do anything. I mean, I was startled that she just allowed it. I mean, not that I think it's
The
great.
cop doesn't believe him.
Yeah, if they were standing right next to each other, he just handed it to me, which God forbid if it was fentanyl or something crazy.
That
After
part's
speaking
weird
with
to me.
Long's husband, the officer heads back inside the home where Long seems to be confused as to why the police were called.
So what we're gonna do, obviously, we're gonna test it and make sure that we discover what it is.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it looks probably like methamphetamine. You know, you know what meth is.
Like, speeding or whatever. I mean,
Come on,
what happened?
everybody knows what
Yeah,
meth is.
yeah.
What Breaking
Whoa, I like
Breaking
this part
Bad.
so far
But I
because
haven't
it
watched
seems like he
Breaking-
don't
that
like
Breaking
custody.
Bad.
He's not taking bullshit from anybody.
However-
He's probing on this.
However,
He's
yeah.
calling her out and, come on, you
No
know
way
what
she
meth
does
is.
it.
Everybody
Like,
knows what meth
Yeah.
is, what
now I don't
Breaking
believe
Bad
her.
is.
No, I don't believe her at all.
Um,
I I was iffy on like.
Not him giving show recommendations.
It's not good that this stuff was in the house with wherever it was, whatever it is. Let's say it's illegal narcotic. It's terrible that a 9-year-old can find that and have access to it, and know that what it is to call the police and have us come out here and check on you. And, to be honest, yeah, you're in some trouble.
Oh.
You're in some trouble.
I'm in trouble?
Yeah, you're in some trouble. And honestly,
I'm in trouble?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah. I'm dead.
our point of view,
Cop Fruity.
and hands me what could be a couple ounces of methamphetamine that came from your house.
I'm freaking out right now.
100%.
I'm freaking out right now.
You don't have to out yourself here, but I know some of y'all know. Is it suspicious at all that it didn't have any little packages already preset to sell? Like, if she was planning on selling, would she had already have put a few aside if it's like methamphetamine, or is it just like, you know, is it? I just feel like that's like a thing, you know. They got a couple of grab bags, maybe. So I just think it's interesting that it was just all together, you know.
Everything we do and everything that we say is always recorded. We have body cams on right now. It's recording you crying.
Wait, Anubis said if this is set up by the dad and kid and they figure it out, the kid will be stuck with the mom and that will be hella awkward. I get that in theory, but if I was in this situation and my shitty husband set me up and tried to get my kid to rat me out, I would immediately forgive my child because he's just a kid and it's not their fault. If you're a mom and you took this personally and it was not true, I get it in theory, but you're gonna fuck your kid up. So you just gotta approach it with love. Love, love, love.
I don't believe that you don't know what it is. He claims he found it under your
Wow.
nightstand. I guess you were having him look for a wallet or something earlier, and he happened to stumble upon it while he was looking for something for you. Now,
I have never in my life, I don't even know.
Okay. Now, Kendra, I talked to CPS.
Are they gonna drug test her?
Ha.
They talked to you back in December,
Yeah.
and there's been 3 cases.
Yes, there's been a
Okay,
lot,
this-
yeah.
Of what?
In the case back then that they investigated, that was unsubstantiated, was possible use of illegal narcotics that they were investigating. That's a pretty large amount of methamphetamine.
Like, honestly, I've been
So-
together on this whole time.
Right.
I don't have any idea what this is.
Okay.
I don't
So this is your house.
Girl.
This is my house.
Right. That's your cup right there. Right.
This is my everything.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So the legal standard usually is that this is your house. That everything in the house that you have possession over. And if we get something that you can technically be responsible for.
If this is drugs or whatever, this is not mine, and I don't know what else to tell you.
So would you be willing to take a urine test?
I'm not going to do anything. I have a photograph.
Okay, they're both doing meth. They're both doing meth.
No, nothing.
For any like methamphetamine?
If they both do meth and they used to before they divorced and whatnot, that would also explain why the kid was so scared. I mean, one, he's ratting out his mom, but he knows they're both meth heads.
Cocaine.
I'm not willing to do anything right now because my ex-husband put so
But
many.
if you're clean, it's going to help your case. So,
I don't have a key.
well, for us,
You're not
because
clean.
you're saying that you don't know what this
So
is.
what is it this key?
The husband could be in recovery though, which is also why he might be bitter
A
about
large
this.
amount of methamphetamine. I mean, let's say you assisted us and you took a drug test and you were completely clean.
Long maintained she had no idea drugs were in her home and still refused to take a urine test.
Long had no idea the drugs were in her home or in her system. Shockingly, they were.
Officers were seen testing the contents in the Ziploc bag, which they confirmed to be meth and a lot of it.
You know, if the
And
husband
a lot of it.
actually set this up, I'm pretty sure he's clean because who gives away 0.2 pounds of meth?
Yeah.
Laundry detergent. I got 4 boys living in my house.
Given the confirmation of meth, police then briefed Kendra on her Miranda rights, seemingly catching her off guard.
That's news to you. That whole bag of white powdery substance is like, not yours.
Not mine, not even like anyone that I know would be associated with
We
that.
did test it, and it did return positive for methamphetamine. I didn't know something like that. So yeah, it is positive. Now, we're gonna forward this on to our narcotics officers.
Our narcs.
You have a change of heart. You wanna talk to them? may want to talk to them. It might help your situation out. You know, if you do, you can ask any officer that you are in contact with. But at this point, you're going to be placed under arrest for possession of controlled substance.
Literally,
I understand.
I literally.
That's fine.
I don't understand this.
Okay. Your child found a bag of what
Oh my god.
presumptively tested positive for methamphetamine under your nightstand. That's your right to say that.
He might have known that she was still actively using, but also kind of set it up, but didn't feel bad about it because he knows it's like a truth. You know what I mean? All speculations, all speculations. Look, custody battles are brutal, and if you ever encounter a custody battle online, no matter what you see with your own eyes, still ask questions. The best thing you're gonna trust in that situation is the kid. Like, for
If
example,
someone asks you for a
narcissistic
drug test to
insane
prove
mom
you're not
video
on meth and
with
you
Parker.
have to
The
say
reason why
no.
we gauged what was going on in that situation was because it was the child that was making a stand, and we could see the behaviors coming directly from the mom. But like little snippets of things or stories in
A
custody
parent
battles,
shouldn't find themselves in that situation.
Yeah.
real fast.
Who can I talk to? The sergeant or something? This is not my stuff. This is not. I did not do a crime. This is not anything. I'm honestly gonna tell you who I think is who I can tell you who I think it is. It has access to my house. I am not understanding what's happening right now. This is not.
But you and your son lived here. You told
Yeah, I
me.
have a boyfriend that has access to my front
Yeah,
door.
well, earlier she said her friend Catherine or something had come over. She was real quick to throw Catherine under the bus, and now it's some guy that came by.
I don't know this guy this well. However, this is I so I give you his name. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. This
Take
is
the
not.
test.
I don't.
Well, you said yourself you really wouldn't want to take a drug test.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now.
Well, I can't give you advice on what to do.
Thanks, Wilbur.
I'm not in a crime. I didn't commit a crime.
Well, it's possession of controlled substance. It's in your house. This is your house.
It's not my. I don't even know this is weird. I can't even understand or fathom the fact that there's drugs in my house.
Meanwhile, the officers applauded Long's son, who was still outside with his father.
Good job, buddy. Proud of you. You did the right thing. Never hesitate to call us if you feel like you're in trouble, okay? All right, thanks for calling us, sir.
They let them both go to avoid the 9-year-old seeing his mom carted off to the back of the squad car.
The officer handled this pretty well, actually, for like how nuanced of a situation it was, and like how there's a bit of smoke and mirrors here. They handled it pretty well, and they prioritized the kid first, which I really appreciate.
The officer later cuffed Long as she continues to maintain she had no idea how the bag of meth ended up in her house. Local reports, police arrested Long for drug trafficking and child abuse. She posted a $25,000 bond that same day. According to 8 News Now, prosecutors found text $1,000 bond.
Okay,
that
here we
same
go,
day.
here we go, here we go.
According to 8 News Now, prosecutors found text messages showing Long was dealing drugs from her home while her son was present.
Dog.
2 years probation, which prosecutors say she violated months later. She has since been sent to an inpatient drug treatment program and will remain on probation another 2 years. Court also states that her son continues to live with his father.
Girl.
Dude, it could have gone any way, Lost Ivy. It could have gone any way.
Minecraft's Creeper is the perfect
Jesus.
design. It's got everything. Oversaturated, nonsensical
Give me
textures,
1 second.
a destructive ability that only frustrates people, and, best of all, too much marketing behind it to ever change. But let's be clear, I don't actually have an issue with the design of the Creeper, or any mob for that matter. And I doubt Minecraft would even want to rework these iconic old mobs into modern designs, because that tends not to go over very well in these kinds of situations.
Ooh.
Despite Minecraft being a constantly updating game, its defining style of updates is that none of the old mobs or items or blocks have ever been removed or even changed in any significant way. The most dramatic changes are either to world generation, which can just be manually terraformed, or textures, which can be customized back. Except for the bat and the Vex, but people didn't really care about those. And that's even with it being a
The
game
Vex
where
got
all
better.
previous
Mhm.
updates are publicly available and able to be played, unlike other live
make him
service
silly
games
size.
like League of Legends or Overwatch 2. But that doesn't mean it isn't fun to think about what it would be like if... For first, let's figure out what me, and by me I mean the general populace, considers old mobs. It's really made out to seem like Minecraft had two distinct mob design eras, but there's obviously a lot of subjective feel to whether a mob feels classic or not. For example, a lot of complaints about modern mobs center around how they have no useful item drops and seemingly no purpose in the game because of that, which was a design trend that started with bats. So, going off of that, the cutoff between new and old would be 1.2 and earlier? Yikes. But thankfully, we aren't just relying on loose community perception for our design rules, because there's a literal Mojang design book, which was supposed to stay secret, but, oops. A lot of these rules aren't relevant to mob design specifically, but here's the ones we'll need to worry about. Bad things should only be the player's fault. This is mainly used as a justification against natural disasters that would destroy terrain without player input, but it also applies to mob design. Obviously, there's a couple old mobs that don't really follow that rule, so that'll be an important one to keep in mind. The player should be the only one to build the world, so mobs shouldn't build anything significant like entire structures. I can't imagine that one being too hard to avoid, but you never know. Real-life animals should be friendly. This is one a lot of people have noticed already just through observation, with most people noticing that Minecraft tends to focus on endangered species and being educational by having them behave realistically. Though most crucially, part of this is making most mobs not drop anything useful, so you aren't incentivized to kill them. That no drops part is not a hard-written rule in this top secret book, but it is a soft observed rule in public consensus, which is basically just as good. Hostile mobs should be unique and should avoid being cliché fantasy creatures. This one makes sense considering the recent hostile mobs, but man, that is not a good rule for things like zombies and skeletons. Mobs can't look like players. Again, rip zombies. No blood or gore. I mean, yeah, duh, but
well, I mean, by their very nature, zombies
kind of. For the old zombies. The mobs should be gender neutral. Another one that makes sense when looking at all of the Minecraft mobs, but it's still interesting to realize is a hard rule. And last but kind of least, design things with hardcore in mind. I really can't see that being an issue, but I guess I gotta scrap my idea for the murder men, my variant of Endermen that instantly kill you when you look at them. Now, I don't want to spend time redesigning every single mob, so I'll only focus on a few specific ones that can kind of explain the approach that would need to happen for entire categories of mobs. With that being said, the obvious starting point has got to be the one mob that these rules seem to screw over the most. Skeletons.
Oh.
Yep, skeletons. While zombies run into a lot of problems, the solution for them is fairly straightforward. In fact, just getting rid of the basic zombie and having them all be zombie villagers will already solve the issue of them looking like players, and will make them more specific to Minecraft rather than generic fantasy. But that doesn't mean we can just turn skeletons into skeleton villagers, mainly because that'd be awful, but also because
I don't know, it's kind of cool.
That unique. Just because villagers aren't particularly human-shaped doesn't mean we're really venturing out that far from basic zombie and skeleton tropes. Truthfully, these kinds of undead mobs probably just wouldn't be added into modern Minecraft in the first place. A modern fantasy mob like the Creaking obviously takes after the tropes of weeping angels, which is a fairly common fantasy idea, but if the Creaking was an old mob, it'd literally be a weeping angel statue. But it isn't. So if we're making something from these tropes, we have to at least put a different spin on it. In the case of zombies, it's again fairly straightforward to just say that instead of villagers being corrupted by some vague zombification virus, they've gotten some kind of other infection, like Skulk. Skulk zombies would work well, since the Skulk seems to have already taken over civilizations before, so it makes sense that there'd be villagers with Skulk infections. Maybe even rename them from zombies to like Skulk Shamblers, or something. Behavior-wise, I imagine they'd still be able to see like normal from their villagerian eyes, but could also have some slight sound mechanics with their skulkular skulk stuff.
Skulkular.
Meanwhile, skeletons are just kind of dead people, which, don't get me wrong, boggles the mind, but that doesn't leave a lot of room for uniqueness. Looking at skeleton variants for inspiration, like I did with the zombie villager, doesn't help too much, since these are all still just skeletons. So a different approach is to look at what happened to zombie pigmen. These are the only official example of an old Minecraft mob getting an overhaul like this. And outside of just making their shape more unique, what I thought was a big part of their update was the creation of piglins. This whole new group of Minecraft-specific creatures for these zombie pigmen to retroactively fit into. I've aligned basic zombies with the sculpt already, and I think keeping zombies and skeletons related to overworld factions, so to speak, would be good, rather than just passing them off to the nether or the end. So, the most fitting overworld faction I could think of is Illagers. They can summon bonular things already.
Bonular.
More importantly, their whole thing
That's a word.
Undying, which I'd say would pretty easily justify slapping the skeletones in there. Unfortunately,
Skeletones.
at best, this means skeletons could be an Illager construct made mostly of bones and sticks and stuff given life. They could even rise out of the ground when the player gets near, rather than just spawning in normally. But
Excuse me.
today, this is still kind of just a skeleton. I mean, it's even a skeleton villager in a way, which I explicitly said I didn't want to do. But I feel like this is at least a Minecrafty enough spin to be fairly separate from generic fantasy without changing them so much that they just aren't a skeleton anymore. I mean, sure, I could just make them a completely new creature that just happens to fulfill the same role of basic enemy with a bow, but the point of this is to try to update the current concepts, not replace them entirely. Speaking of the skeleton's role, though, I don't want to make them exclusive to Illager locations like towers or mansions, despite that being where they come from. I think having zombies and skeletons show up everywhere as the basic enemy you always fight is pretty important. We're just explaining the origins of these two as Skulk and Illagers, but they've still spread enough throughout the world to be the commonplace enemies they currently are. Oh, and I don't think Wither Skeletons would really need to change much. Maybe
Yeah.
Piglin constructs as a counterpart to the Illager constructed skeletons, or maybe Wither Skeletons are just the real skeletons of Illagers. I don't know. I'm only concerned about the basic baby base game mobs.
I hate that.
Farm animals from the beginning of Minecraft. Cows, pigs, sheep, and chickens all mainly fulfill the role of just being food to farm and kill, which doesn't exactly line up with modern mob design. Well, except for sheep, you don't really kill those, but I'm still lumping them in here because I can. However, I'm specifically focusing on chickens because they have a lot more work to be done, and my best friend also raises chickens, and I can't wait for her to complain about how horribly I did at updating them. Visually, the chicken definitely looks
The next video changes the tone immediately. Like the the Atlanta child murders.
Human, and you can even get cows and pigs with the kind of flat texture planes that have been used for detailing on a lot of recent mobs. It can be tempting to think that these bodies that are kind of just big rectangles with 4 equally sized rectangles sticking out for legs are too outdated for a modern mob, but the real animals are just kind of boxes. What can I say? Chickens are where the cubes are less helpful, but honestly, I get the feeling that more modern texture work can already do wonders. The model itself just needs a much smaller beak, more tail feathers, and more detailed whatever the red stuff on chickens is called. Also, adding a comb to the chicken is a no-brainer. I guess that was more changes than I made it seem like, but whatever. For a lot of these old mobs, they really only looked like and behaved how common perception would dictate. Like pigs, you just eat those. Cows, I know they give us milk, but also you just eat them. Chickens, yeah, they have eggs, and also you eat them. And I won't lie, I think that'd still be true to some degree, even if these mobs were added now. While most real animals added to Minecraft now get a bunch of unique stuff to represent how they behave in real life, most of that is for animals that are endangered or uncommon, which doesn't really apply for the chicken. So while they would obviously be more accurate, we don't need to go all in visually. That means there's no need for a ton of variations of combs or anything. At most, I think having feather colors for brown, black, and white would be the only visual variations we need.
Chimkins.
Of course, get a unique model now, but they would always have yellow feathers because clearly no other color of chick exists, and there's no evidence to the contrary. Behavior is where I had the most ideas, though. Unlike zombies and skeletons that just get to act the same, every old passive mob just kinda walks around waiting to be killed. Sheep
Oh,
at least eat
yeah.
grass. We could give cows that too. Maybe pigs could go play in the mud and get muddy as a fun visual thing. But chickens have eggs, which, as we all know, have nothing to do with breeding. Like the most unique thing to focus on with chickens, and basically guarantee that they'll be useful mobs for survival to at least some degree. But obviously we need to rework how chickens breed and how they make eggs to actually have those two things be, you know, the same thing. First things first, growing eggs should not make chickens spawn. Oh my god, Minecraft would never do this nowadays. And so that simply stepping on turtle eggs will destroy them. But yeah, kids, if you just chuck a chicken egg on the ground, it might hatch. Nope, not gonna fly. Chickens don't fly.
Might hatch.
Instead, when breeding two chickens, one of them goes to find a compatible dirt block like grass, coarse dirt, mycelium, etc. to lay their eggs. To do this, they create a nest with 1 to 3 eggs in it, and any nearby chicken will occasionally go sit on the nest. After sitting on eggs long enough, they will hatch into chicks. But it wouldn't be Minecraft if this simple cycle didn't interact with the rest of the game in several different ways. For example, you could right-click on a nest to take the eggs, or right-click with eggs to add them back to the nest. Breaking a nest, either manually or by disturbing the block it's on, gives you a 75% chance to drop each of the eggs that were in there. Which means automatic farms are possible, but less efficient. I'd even say the nest would give varying redstone signal strengths through a redstone comparator to help with that. And if a chicken is on the nest, the strength could increase by 4, so each possible state of the nest has a different signal. Don't worry, nerds.
Thinking about this too hard.
It could also be good for decoration, so right-clicking a path block with an egg will turn the path into dirt and make a nest with the egg in it. But all this doesn't matter if killing a chicken is still way better.
Oh.
I've made it more cumbersome to breed chickens, as is the classic Mojang design philosophy, but killing them still gives amazing food and feathers. It's great to get feathers too, unless you want to kill some parrots, but
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't exactly justify having chickens drop nothing on death, but I can at least try to make keeping them alive the better option. To give feathers without killing them, chickens could sit in an empty nest, and one of their feathers will get stuck in the nest.
That makes sense.
Less efficient than killing them still, but it's at least repeatable even with one chicken. On top of that, making eggs more useful as a food would make them a better alternative.
Eggs.
Again, probably not as good as killing the chicken and cooking its meat, but it's repeatable, and that's as good as we can get realistically. With it being slower and less convenient to breed chickens, it'd be more of a hassle to constantly breed and kill them over and over, so there'd be legitimate reasons to take advantage of these non-lethal methods to get feathers and eggs. Ultimately, though, these 4 are farm animals for a reason.
He said, "Go vegan."
Game without the main purpose being to kill and eat them just wouldn't make much sense. Sure, maybe pigs can sniff out truffles as a food source if you keep them alive, or cow milk can be given more food purposes so you can sustain more easily off of it, or sheep can... sheep are fine, actually. Ultimately, killing them is always going to be an option most people take. But this would at least show young, impressionable kids that these animals are more than just food, which is how I think Minecraft would approach adding farm animals like this nowadays.
My god.
Speaking of Minecraft and young, impressionable kids, spiders need a big overhaul. Because Minecraft wants to teach kids to be afraid of spiders. Ultimately, Minecraft spiders are like the real animal.
I love you, babe.
Classic
There was an episode of Peppa Pig that was banned in Australia because it was supposed to teach kids not to be afraid of spiders. Can't have that there.
Not in Australia.
Be afraid of every spider.
spiders to be as unscary as possible. Because, again, Mojang probably wouldn't want kids to get a real fear of real animals from funny block game. I debated going real small with them, like pixel size, because when it comes to Minecraft bugs, it's a complete toss-up of scale. But I felt like having little black pixels crawling around in a dark cave would be a bit creepy. So we're going for smaller, but still pretty big.
He's
Similarly, making
adorable.
spiders around as they climb on things is an obvious animation quality increase, but it's also quite creepy, so much this friendlier appearance, and because we're operating under the rules of this being a real animal now, spiders won't be hostile anymore. I mean, technically they've always been neutral since they don't attack you during the day, but like, that barely counts. So instead, we're going all in. Spiders are now fully passive. They won't attack you under any circumstance, because despite what my personal fears tell me, real spiders don't actually care about attacking and killing humans in most instances. The only thing spiders will attack is bees, which isn't entirely accurate, but we can
Babe, are you okay?
say that spiders should prioritize attacking bees
You're
who are
cute.
distracted by attacking players. This makes sense logically, but would also make them feel more friendly and cooperative, highlighting the only good thing spiders do in real life, which is getting rid of other insects. Spiders will still only spawn in the dark. They'll go hide in the nearby shade, similar to those other idiots who catch on fire. Unlike those undead, though, spiders won't go for water at all because, well, they aren't actually on fire, but even outside of that, they can't swim. Since that Sisyphean spider kept trying to climb up that stupid water spout. But what about webs? I hear you not say because you shouldn't be talking at a video. Well, here's the thing. That'd be mob briefing, which we can't really get away with. I think that at most, webs should spawn when a spider kills a bee. To me, that's more in line with modern Minecraft and is still easily preventable by just keeping your beehives lit up so that spiders are deterred. It might even be fine to have spiders spawn a single cobweb block as their home, so maybe the web even goes away after time or when the spider who made it is killed. That would probably be undisruptive enough to work. However, we still have to address the survival purposes of these passive spiders. Since it's a real animal, we'll unfortunately have to make killing it discouraged. I think we can easily justify spiders not dropping string when they die because the cobwebs they make can be a renewable string source, and I have no idea how you harvest string from a dead spider anyway, and I don't want to think about it. You could even have a simple automatic farm by having an observer sense when a spider creates a web, flush the web out with water, and wait for the spider to make another one. Just like the water spout. If there were more types of bugs, I'd say you could easily have spiders be an automatic way to capture and kill those bugs to farm whatever they drop. But since the only thing that applies to is bees, and bees are endangered, I don't think Mojang would want you to have any reason to dump endless quantities of bees into a web of death. As for spider eyes, normal spiders shouldn't drop those anymore either. But cave spiders would. Yes, I didn't forget about cave spiders. In fact, I've deliberately kept them out of the conversation until now because I want to almost entirely separate them from normal spiders. Cave spiders would be the hostile fantasy creature that spiders no longer are, going all in on the poison theming too. Normal spiders have already changed visually enough that cave spiders don't really need to change that much. The main thing I wanted to adjust is pushing them further away from real spiders. I'd even argue that they could be called cave crawlers or something to really get rid of all references to actual animals. Unlike spiders, these crawlers will actually drop string and eyes when killed. Those eyes being crawler eyes now since, you know, the whole knotted spider thing. You get it. They don't spawn cobwebs naturally at all, but they do spawn a ton of them when they die, similar to that new weaving potion effect, which is another fine way to do mob briefing, I think, since the player directly causes it by killing them. Although something I didn't mention when talking about skeletons and zombies is how a lot of people feel like modern hostile mobs don't have useful item drops either. These are the logic behind making passive mobs not have useful drops, but hostile mobs? Well, I personally don't think that's an intentional design limitation. The most recent hostile mobs haven't just been enemies. They've been special obstacles for specific areas. They're intentionally designed to be guarding useful loot rather than dropping it themselves. But zombies and skeletons have to drop useful items because they just spawn everywhere. I'm applying a similar logic here with the cave crawlers. This also applies to the last of the common enemies of Minecraft. Creeper. I know that's a total of 3 hostile mobs I've talked about, but I kind of covered every passive mob that I needed to change when I was talking about the chicken. Really, the only other passive mob that would need any updates is the squid, but like, I don't know what I'd do with that. I had to do the creeper. Not only is it the only old Minecraft mob to not have any significant updates to it, it since its release, but it's also a huge example of mobs dealing damage to terrain, which ain't allowed. Now, to be fair, the paragraph about that rule kinda mentions creepers specifically and says they're fine because a player has to be there for it, and that's fair, but in my humble opinion, I think they're coping. It feels like a justification for an old design that doesn't follow the new rules. I don't think they'd ever make creepers destroy blocks nowadays, plus changing that behavior makes for a more interesting thought experiment anyway. Although, before we address any of that destructive tendency stuff, we've gotta do something about its visuals. Currently, it's entirely unclear what the creeper even is or why it does anything it does, to the point that most people were entirely caught off guard by how it looked in the Minecraft movie. I mean, the movie didn't do it great either, but the creeper is supposed to be a plant. Its texture is even based off the old leaf texture from pre-release Minecraft, with the idea being that they blended to the environment. Of course, that doesn't work anymore since leaves have updated a ton, and the creeper still looks like that, so we'll want to make him more obviously a leaf-based creature, and really lean in on the camouflage concept as best we can. I even took some inspiration from the glare from 2021's mob vote, since that shows us how a leafy mob would look in modern Minecraft design. In the tweet where Notch said that creepers were made out of leaves, he also said he had no idea why they explode,
but the creeper
that's actually the easy part in my opinion. Well, it's probably only easy because game theory solved that for me a literal decade ago.
Yeah.
Since there are plants, they explode to spread their pollen. This also presents a unique alternative to their explosions being destructive. Instead of destroying blocks, they would just damage and knock back all nearby mobs. But this could also spread a pollinated effect cloud, which would function similarly to the weaving and oozing effects. When you or any other mob affected by it are killed, it'll spawn a baby creeper, or I guess it'd be a creeper bud in this instance. There aren't currently baby creepers, but the reason I'm adding them is specifically because these creeper buds don't explode yet. That way, it isn't just a chain reaction of creepers exploding, pollinating mobs, those mobs dying, which spawns more creepers, then they explode, and then they pollinate again, yada yada. However, we still have to address item drops. As I explained with spiders, it makes sense for mobs like creepers to still have useful drops since they're a common enemy, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that modern Mojang probably wouldn't add gunpowder, so my first thought was to just replace it with sulfur, which would justifiably serve the same purpose and would make more sense for an organic creature to drop. But this isn't just an organic creature, it's a plant creature. So, obviously, they'd drop boomflower seeds. Boomflower seeds, as the name implies, can be planted to grow boomflowers. These flowers do a small, harmless pop when harvested that pushes away mobs a bit and throws out 0 to 2 more seeds. Maybe you could even have it so that if a creeper explodes near an empty farmland tile, it'll plant a boomflower seed in that farmland. The seeds themselves can be used in place of gunpowder in all recipes, and the flowers are kinda just aesthetic, similar to torch flowers. Maybe boomflowers are even mutations of ancient torch flowers. Ooh, game theory. So yeah, I feel like this is overall a fun twist on creepers. But with all this talk about mob griefing, you might be wondering, what about Enderman? Enderman can take in place blocks. Both of those actions are disruptive. Well, I don't know. Maybe you could have Enderman copy blocks instead of taking them, but honestly, it's hard to feel like Enderman would need any updates at all because they still feel incredibly unique in both concept and behavior. But that's just the exception when it comes to old mobs. If we're being honest, Notch would have put literal Slenderman into Minecraft if it wouldn't have been illegal to do so. Practically every old mob in Minecraft is 1, there because it was obvious to add them, and 2, designed just straight from the trope they were ripped from. It's a survival game. What do you need to survive? Animals to eat. What animals do you eat? Cows, pigs, and chicken. We need enemies. What do you fight? Zombies, skeletons, and giant enemy spiders. The prevailing design philosophy of old Minecraft was common sense. There was no deeper realism to the animals or no deeper concept to the fantasy creatures. Sheep were added so you would have wool to make beds, but sheep didn't drop food at first because eating sheep isn't as common as eating any of the other animals. Of course, the trade-off for this is that every mob had a purpose for the survival gameplay because otherwise they wouldn't have been added in the first place. Modern Minecraft, on the other hand, doesn't need to worry about this. All these old mobs from the release of the game have already covered all the basic needs for survival games. Why would you need to add more animals whose only purpose is to be killed for food when you already have 4? Why would you make a basic hostile mob that can appear everywhere and give moderately useful exclusive loot on death when you already have 4? Modern mobs have to focus on micro experiences, limited scope, and niche utility because that's all that's left. It's a 15-year-old live service game that just added a new character with more insane tools in their kit than any character before because you already have the guy who just smacks people to death. But I can't exactly fault one guy 15 years ago just following the tropes he was used to. And I think modern Minecraft design only makes sense with these old mobs as a baseline. Could some of them use a pick-me-up with animations or behavior? Sure, but I feel like if we replaced all these old mobs completely with the overhauls I've been suggesting, we'd probably miss having basic mobs. Plus, this doesn't mean the old mobs are entirely devoid of unique ideas or anything. I mean, what the heck is a ghast? I've never seen that before. Endermen are obviously supposed to be heavily based off of Slendermen, but they are just creepily stalking you as you pick up some papers in the woods. And creepers only happened because of a bug when coding pigs, but that doesn't mean they aren't creative. Trying to do something, messing up, and then getting inspired by that mistake is one of my favorite feelings. Oh, also, I guess the silverfish is unique in terms of fantasy tropes. It's also a real animal while being a fully hostile mob, so it entirely breaks modern design rules, but people never talk about the silverfish. The only example they can think of is spiders. To be fair, real silverfish are disgusting and Minecraft silverfish are annoying, so I have no sympathy, and I will not apologize for almost entirely ignoring them. Should I have redesigned them at the same time as spiders?
No, he's just ranting. You're gay.
July 28th,
No, I meant I'm gonna fade you out.
It's a hot summer
How dare you?
day in Atlanta, Georgia, and a woman is collecting cans off an empty and abandoned lot off the side of Niskey Lake Road when she comes across the unmistakable smell of decomposition. The road is lined on each side by trees, and as the woman comes closer to the source of the smell, what she sees would soon begin over a year of terror for the children and families of Atlanta. There in the woods was the body of a young boy. After calling the police, authorities eventually identify the boy as Edward Hope Smith. His friends called him Teddy. Edward, 14 at the time, had been reported missing for a week before his body was found in the woods. The cause of death is determined to be a gunshot wound to the back, fired from a .22 caliber pistol, although the bullet was never recovered. As police reached the scene and began canvassing the area, they would soon realize that this was not the only body they'd find that day. Not far away, within 150 yards from Edward's body, was the body of another child, in a state of extensive decomposition. It was clear to authorities that this body had been in the woods much longer than Edward's had, and therefore might have been dumped at a different time. Due to the level of decomposition, it would take authorities over a year to identify him, but eventually, the body was determined to have been that of Alfred James Evans, who had been reported missing by his mother for a week prior to his body's discovery. He was 13 years old. The cause of death? Asphyxia by strangulation. While the police were originally unwilling to acknowledge any correlation between the deaths of the two boys, they could not deny two things both children had in common. Both were black, and both came from low-income neighborhoods.
I knew it.
Teddy's parents have had no word from their son all this time. The 14-year-old has never disappeared like this. But the family lives in a neighborhood where there is a great deal of crime among youths. And when a 14-year-old wanders away from home, people aren't concerned.
But for cops in Atlanta, a city looking to build its reputation as a hub for national business, the deaths of two black boys were quickly swept under the rug, with little effort put into their investigations. But in the years to come, the names of these children would demand to be heard, ushering in one of the darkest periods in Atlanta's history.
These are not pleasant days on the south side of Atlanta. Someone has been abducting and murdering black children, and the police unable to make any headway are under fire. Sam Ford reports.
In the years leading up to the murders that would eventually put Atlanta's name on headlines across the nation, Atlanta was already in the spotlight for an entirely different reason. In the 1960s and 70s, Atlanta was one of many cities in the Deep South racing to become the new southern hotspot for business and commerce. After expanding its metropolitan area, Atlanta was committed to inviting the most hopeful and hardworking people to build their careers and businesses in the city. Gone were the days of being just another town in the Deep South. Atlanta was now competing for the title of the New South, not only becoming a leader in economics, but a cultural hub as well. Although, the city wasn't without its faults, and like many cities in the American South, Atlanta grappled with the ever-present racism entrenched in its systems. With a very recent history of KKK activity and lynchings, Atlanta's expansion and success still didn't solve the racial divide, and the people benefiting the most were the affluent white population of Atlanta, while black Atlantans were still facing the heat of systemic discrimination in housing, employment, and the justice system. However, over time, public opinion would soon shift when the city started to make tangible steps towards desegregating schools, even electing its first ever black mayor in 1973, followed soon by its first black police chief, public safety commissioner, and city council president in the years following. Atlanta was changing, now proudly calling itself the city too busy to hate. On the surface, it seemed like the city was seeing new horizons, with the promise of equal opportunity and unprecedented growth, an image the city was determined to protect at all costs. So when reports of rising crime rates and missing black boys and girls were being raised, police and the media did its best to ignore the problem, maintaining its image lest the money stopped flowing. That's why it was all too easy for the police to chalk up the 2 murdered boys to drug-related violence. But the communities these murders had affected did not accept this response, and as more children would be found, the Atlanta lawmakers would soon feel the heat.
That's gay.
Only a few months after the discovery of Edward Smith and Alfred Evans, there came a slew of other missing black children, soon to be found dead in various parts of Atlanta. The third to be added to the list was 14-year-old Milton Harvey, who in early September 1979 was reported missing after he'd rode a bike to the bank to pay off a credit card statement for his mother. It was the first day of school that day, but Harvey had stayed home because he was embarrassed by the shoes his mother had gotten him. After paying the bill, somewhere in the 3 miles between the bank and his home,